What's up? Hey, hello everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about the challenge season 36 Double Agents episode 14, almost to the finish line. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like whenever I watch the challenge, I am struck again by just how many people there are. Because they were talking about how they had like a tight knit group of 12 this episode. And I was like, that's still so many people. It just, that's so many people.
Is 12 not everyone in the house? Or are there like 13 or 14 people in the house left?
There's 12 people, I think, in the house. But it's like, I guess the point is that they're all like kind of involved in some way because of the way the partnerships have shaken out. So like, but 12 is still so many people because I feel like when we have 12 people in Survivor, it's like two alliances of like 7 and 5 and or 6 and 6 or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's like the full merge.
Yeah, that's the full merge. That's not like two episodes from the finale. So just like I'm just so glad that I finally know everybody's name because at the beginning of this season I struggled so hard.
Oh my
But
gosh,
14
I'm so
episodes
proud.
later. Yeah.
And
So
you're lucky. There's actually four more episodes left since I think there's 18. So you're just in time, Alyssa. Not two more, but we have four more weeks with these people. So now you know
oh my
everyone's
goodness.
name.
It feels like it's been dragging on forever.
Yeah, literally. It has been since December. I feel like we started. Yeah, it was early December. So, wow, already March. That is truly insane. But this week's episode will start off with the daily challenge. This is a really cool underwater swimming challenge. I swam while growing up competitively, so I'm always a fan of swimming challenges. And so they got to swim through two tectonic plates, which I thought was also super cool. And we got a little mini lesson on tectonic plates. People didn't really know what those are, which I took an earthquakes class in college. So I was like, oh, this is two of my favorite things.
Yeah, I feel like the funniest part was they didn't even know how to pronounce tectonic, and it's like it's pronounced just like it's spelled. But yeah, I did not take an earthquakes class in college. That sounds like fun.
Yeah,
But
yeah, super, super interesting. And I'm glad, I guess, knowing tectonic comes in handy for the challenge. But also, I feel like we've learned about tectonic plates, or at least Pangea and stuff in middle school science.
yeah, I took a class on dinosaurs in college, and we talked about Pangea. But college aside, I feel like one thing that happened during this daily challenge that I was very confused about was like suddenly like half the contestants don't like water. And it's like they've been doing challenges like above water or involving water like basically this entire season, and I feel like this is the first time we're hearing that like half these people don't like water.
I guess it could be like they don't like swimming because it seems like only the ice pill challenge involved swimming. The others, it's like, okay, if you fell off of the cargo net or you fell off of the helicopter or whatever, you don't have to swim. I guess besides that other one where you were hanging on the rope and then you fell, then you had to swim. But yeah, I guess I didn't really notice that. I was more thinking that this was another poorly designed challenge, similar to the drone challenge, where like half the people DQ'd because their drone broke and they like flew into the side of the canyon wall. I feel like if you have challenges, you shouldn't have half of the people not being able to complete the challenge. I don't know. I felt like just plain swimming would have been fine, or like maybe you could have allowed them to come up for air and then you dive back down and then you swim the rest underwater. It didn't really make sense to force them to stay under the whole time when like so many people couldn't complete it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the purpose would be of that because it's kind of like if you come up for air, you're already like punishing yourself because that takes a lot longer than just staying under the whole time. So I get unless it's supposed to be like a mental fortitude type thing, I don't really understand the purpose. But
Yeah, they just wanted them to swim underwater so they could look at the tectonic plates, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't, because if you go down and you have to dive up and down and up, like you are losing time rather than if you just dove down at the start, used the rope at the bottom, pulled yourself along, and then swam really fast like that. So yeah, it just sort of peeved me that you would get DQ'd if you just came up for air, especially for like Nani getting kicked in the face. She never really even had a chance to start the challenge because she couldn't breathe after getting kicked and was like all discombobulated.
yeah, I feel that's hard because technically it is her partner's fault, and Fessy should have been more careful. But yeah, I just feel like, do they test these challenges at all? Because I feel like we said, it shouldn't be a case where like half the teams got DQ'd. But
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like with the drone challenge, people said that they actually got to practice with the drones beforehand and then still people failed. Maybe with the drone challenge, you could have got extra tries if you crashed your drone into the wall and then that would just count towards your time. So technically, if someone was really slow at the puzzle, but you took like 2 or 3 shots at the drone after it crashed, then you could still catch up. So it could have been a similar thing here. Like, okay, you can come up for air, but you lose time versus people, but you can still get to the puzzle portion if you get to the rings. If you can't even get to the rings by swimming, then you should get DQ'd. But yeah, DQing them by just coming up for air seems a little bit harsh because it's like I want to see all the people complete the challenge. And it's like, oh, Darrell and Amber, they could have been and they were on the chopping block this week, but like Amber couldn't do the swimming portion. So then she sort of screws over her partner, Darrell, who probably wanted to do well in this challenge. And we saw him saying in a confessional that it sucks when your partner can't do a challenge. And he thinks that Amber B was maybe like throwing it or wasn't trying as hard. So like something like that. It just like sucks when your partner isn't performing when you want to do well, which I guess you can be like, it's a partner game, deal with it, but just sucks.
yeah, I think it's also funny that Kyle won 2 of the challenges that are like mostly disqualifications. But yeah, I do think it's a partner game, but also I feel like this should be something where you're like communicating with your partner about like, I have a fear of drowning, so I'm not going to be very good in these water challenges or whatever. That way it's not like your partner feels blindsided by it, but
Yeah, like Cory saying to Big T, I was so excited to see Big T swim again because on the rope hanging where you drop into the drop zone and then swim, Big T said she swam in school also. So I was like, yes, let's see Big T swim again. And then Cory is like, comes out with this traumatic story about how he almost drowned. And then, like, that was it. There was no more backstory. And I was like, Cory, I need some more info. Production, editors, why did you cut the story short? Like, he just said his friend tried to drown him and that was it. I would have wanted some more backstory there.
when he said that, I was like, I sure hope they're not your friend anymore, Cory. Just like, friends don't drown friends. Just a thought.
Yeah, like, was it an accident? Was it on purpose? Like, I need some backstory here. I really wish they would have explained it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So with
But
oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, with the rings in the challenge thing, they were acting like this was the most complicated puzzle that had ever happened to humankind. And I'm like, they didn't even use any of the hard symbols. Literally, all of the symbols on the rings were just dashes. And I was like, what is wrong with you guys? Why did it take some of these people so long to figure it out?
I guess what was the code? So you look at like the answer key there and then you match it up the letters with the dashes on each of the rings.
Yeah, but it's like there were different symbols, so not all the letters had dashes as symbols. Some of them had like circles or like lightning bolts or whatever. So the dashes, I feel like, were the simplest symbol that they chose, and all of the symbols were dashes. So it's just like the simplest part of the code, I think.
Yeah, and I guess especially like what decode, that's got multiple of the same letter in it.
Yeah. I did think it was funny that Casey thought it was coded, because it's like That's basically the same thing, except for with an
Yeah, the
extra name.
opposite, I guess the reversal of it. And so, like, yeah, a lot of the teams DQ'd, with Cory DQing because of his history with drowning. A lot of people on the internet, they were saying that they are sort of like mad at Cory in the sense that like Cory hasn't participated in like any of the challenges this season because he's always been the rogue agent, which yes, I feel like you can say like, yeah, Cory hasn't participated in any of the dailies because he was rogue, but also I feel like you can't really blame Cory for being rogue all the time because it's not his fault that his partner always lost kind of thing. So I feel like sure, even though he didn't do that well in this challenge that he did participate in.
Yeah, I just like it is kind of it's not Cory's fault that he's so consistently the rogue agent, but I would think that when he's not the rogue agent, he would try a little harder. But also, I understand that like if you nearly got drowned as a child, I too would not super want to do this challenge. So it's kind of I can understand why people think he would try harder, but also I can't fault him for not trying harder, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like especially like swimming, if you have like a phobia or like the traumatic past kind of thing, like there's nothing really you can do to get over that kind of phobia, you know? So hopefully now that Cory has his gold skull, which is spoiler for the rest of the episode, then Cory will be participating and we can see Cory kick some butt because he's been sitting on the sidelines the entire time. And so his first challenge back, I think since he ran that mini final with Ashley at like the halfway point of the season and to not perform, hopefully he can perform well in next week and coming up.
Yeah, hopefully. I would feel bad if he got his gold skull and then like immediately got eliminated or something like that.
Participates in like 3 challenges out of like the 14 thus far and then gets sent home. That would totally suck. But Aneesa and Kyle win this at the perfect time. So super good for them. They were so excited. They were like crying when TJ announced it because they really didn't think that they won. And so I was excited for them. And it's one of those things where like, oh, they're the underdogs this episode. At the start of the episode, everyone was saying that they wanted to go in against Aneesa and Kyle, no matter if it's a guy's day or a girl's day. So these two are at the bottom of everyone's totem pole. So it's one of those things in like Survivor where the person that was going to get voted out wins immunity. So I was happy for them.
Yeah, I was happy for them too. So I think it also was nice because Kyle is one of those people who is willing to entertain a lot of different possibilities as the double agent. Whereas I feel like a lot of other people are so caught up in their alliances and everything that they're just like, okay, this is what I have to do now. So Kyle's suggesting like 5 different people to put in as the double or as the vote was just fun. It was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle has the right idea when he is saying, okay, let's put in CT versus Darrell. Let's get like one of them to go home because as Kyle, as a guy, you don't really want CT or Darrell in the finals because they're both proven winners. And so I was so excited because Kyle had that right idea. I was like, yes, I too want to see CT versus Darrell in the elimination. But I feel like there's got to maybe be some rule against throwing 2 Gold Skull members into the elimination. And that's why we haven't seen it yet, because you have 5 guys with Gold Skulls and Cory left. If you did throw in CT and Darrell, then you would only have 4 men with Gold Skulls. And then who would Cory go against? Because then you don't have someone like you have an extra skull and an extra person. So then would Cory automatically get his gold skull, or would there only be 4 gold skulls up for grabs for the men? So Cory would still have to steal a skull from one of the remaining men, but then you have 5 girls with gold skulls. So then like the numbers are all messed up. So that's why I feel like there's got to be something in the rules that they just didn't tell us as viewers, that it has to be a non-gold skull versus a non-gold skull, or a gold skull holder versus a non-gold skull holder, because if you do gold, it messes up the numbers.
Yeah, I do think that that's one of the things the challenge doesn't do super great. Like, it seems like they have a lot of random rules that we're not super subjected to. Also, like the random bringing back of people or deciding when people would be eliminated, just I just wish they would tell us these things, because it's not like not telling us helps them in any way. And it would be more interesting, I think, to know that, like, oh, so and so is in a lot of trouble because they're one of the only non gold skull holders. So that means they're going in soon. So, yeah.
Yeah, wish they would have told us some of the rules. If it is a rule, maybe it's not even a rule because Kyle said, let's throw in CT and Darrell, two gold skull holders. So it does seem odd if they were told that they aren't allowed to do that, which seems to be the case. I don't know why the past few weeks it's always been gold versus non, when you could have got gold versus gold and then you get rid of someone that's super strong. Because yeah, like if you're the guys, why are you letting CT and Darrell both make it to the finals? Like that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Similar, like why is Fessy not getting thrown in again? So in the pre-deliberation before we see the crater, we see that Kyle maybe wants Leroy to go in. And so I would say that Cam and Leroy, realizing that people are trying to throw Leroy in as the house vote, are smart for what they did in throwing Darrell in, but also so sad because they are throwing Darrell into the elimination. So Cam and Leroy realize, oh, people want to throw in Leroy. There's not a lot of guys left. So who can we throw the votes on as the house so we can protect Leroy? CT is safe from the house vote because he is Cam's partner. They're not going to throw in CT because he's connected to Cam. They don't want Cam to accidentally go home. Fessy is safe because he is Nany's partner, and Leroy and Nany are very close, so that sucks. So really, since Kyle is safe from the double agent status, Oling Darrell is left, which also sucks because in like the after shows, Darrell has said that like Cam and Leroy were his number ones in the house. And so it makes sense because Darrell is the only person that you could throw in to save Cam and Leroy, and by association Nany if it might have been a women's elimination day. But just sucks. They had too many friends and then they have to throw Darrell in.
Yeah, I just feel like that's the problem with the fact that the challenge is so like convoluted with so many different like alliances and stuff, because it's like you're always going to end up having to throw in someone who's your friend when you get to this point, and basically everyone is everyone's friend.
I think Darrell made the right choice when he tries to threaten Leroy, saying that, hey, Leroy, if I get thrown into the house vote, if I win, I'm going to steal Casey. And I'm like, okay, not a bad move. Try to scare Leroy into not throwing you in as the house vote. And, I guess it makes sense to try to throw someone else in, like throw Darrell in if you're Cam and Leroy. But also, if you're Kyle and Aneesa, you could have just thrown in Leroy against Darrell if Darrell was the house vote. It seems like there's a lot of risk and like hoping that if we make Darrell the house vote, then Kyle and Aneesa are going to vote in Cory, which isn't really guaranteed. But also, if you aren't allowed to throw in two Gold Skull members, then obviously Cory is the only person that's left up for grabs.
Yeah, so I feel like it was hard for the house vote because a lot of people were put in a difficult place with deciding who to put in for the house vote, but it was a whole mess. It was a whole mess. I agree that Darrell was smart to threaten Leroy, but also like it's not solely Leroy's fault if someone goes in as a house vote. So
yeah, I feel like there's nothing really Darrell could have done to keep himself safe or to keep him out of the house vote, because literally all the other guys, Kyle is safe, CT isn't getting thrown in, Fessy isn't getting thrown in, Leroy isn't getting thrown in, because Cam and Leroy and the Big Brother people, that's all the people left, control the votes, and they're not going to throw their friends straight into an elimination. Or if it happens to be a men's or a women's elimination, they're going to protect someone like Nany. They're going to protect Cam as well if it were to be a women's elimination. Just sucks. Darrell is at the bottom of their list because I would have wanted to see Darrell in the finals. So I'm like, dang, it makes sense that you make that move to protect yourself. because Cam and Leroy and the big brother Fessy and Casey have the votes, but I'm like, dang, this totally sucks as a viewer.
To be fair, Darrell could have won this challenge. It sounded like based on his like post exit interview that he didn't really try his hardest, because the first time he was like, oh yeah, I was worried about tripping over the rope. And it's like, bruh, tripping over the rope is not as bad as being sent home.
I think it was like, I think he talks about that in the after show also, where like they weren't really told about like the slack or whatever. So they were, or at least Darrell was maybe afraid that like he could trip on the rope or like it would tense up and like they wouldn't know about it or something. But I feel like before we get to the crater, I don't really get why Kyle and Aneesa would give Cory a chance to go into the elimination. I'm sort of annoyed that there's so many chances for everyone to get their gold skull. Like, what was the point? You could have been like Cory, be rogue the entire season. Now Cory has a chance to go in, and then now since he's won, he can have an easy way to the final because there's only a few more weeks left in the show versus someone like Devin, Kyle, who has gotten his gold skull super early. Like, they have to keep fighting week by week. And I don't know. I really just wish they didn't like give Cory this opportunity. Like, Cory should have, I don't know, fought for it, I guess, maybe went in earlier. It just like, why does everyone get a chance to go in?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned this before, but it just seems kind of stupid that they like put such a focus on getting your skull early when it ends up not really mattering. And I wonder if part of that is the fact that so many girls have been eliminated without going into the crater. And so they needed to drag it out so that there would be an equal number of guys and girls' skulls. So it's like they missed, what, 3 girls' weeks? 4?
Something like that, 3 or 4.
Yeah, so it's like they need 3 or 4 extra guys' weeks then to like balance it all out. So maybe that's why it's so horrible like this. Maybe. I still don't get the whole rationale behind it, and I would love for someone to explain, like, what's the point in getting your skull early?
From like the season thus far, there is no point to get your skull early because I feel like at the beginning of this season, me and you, we were on the assumption that like, yeah, smarter to go in early because once it hits 5 and 5, then you could still throw in 2 non-gold skull holders in against each other, and then one person would go home and you would still have 5 gold skulls. But apparently in the rules where no one is thinking strategically, they always send in a non-gold skull holder versus a gold skull holder once those 5 first gold skulls have been taken. So like if you're Devin or Josh, you shouldn't have gone in so early because you know you're going to be at the bottom of the totem pole when everyone else, the big dogs, are trying to steal their skull, like your skull. So like if it were the case that you could do 2 non-gold skull holders in against each other now, or 2 gold skull holders to like get rid of the people in the final, like then it would make sense to go in early. But with the rules right now, it truly does not make sense to go in early.
The only reason I could see this like working out would be like if you got to choose your partner in the final based on when you got your skull or something like that. So there was actually a benefit to going early. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, I really doubt that is the case. But it would be cool if there was some kind of incentive, like you get to pick the partners for the final, like you're saying first if you go in earlier, or like, or you get a time advantage or something in the final, or better sleep or something. Yeah, I don't know. But I feel like another big mistake this episode is when Aneesa and Kyle decide to throw in Cory and basically let Cory go into elimination. Why not block him from the elimination? We get it, you know, Cory and Aneesa are longtime friends, but like Cory and Aneesa and Kyle were on the bottom this episode because they won the daily challenge. Then they're not on the bottom because they're safe. But by throwing in Kyle against Darrell, 2 people who are already like on the bottom of the house, like Cory is not in the Big Brother Alliance. He's not in the Cambroy Alliance. Darrell is obviously not as close in those alliances as he thought because he just got thrown in by those people. So Aneesa and Kyle doing like this isn't going to help them next week because people, if they don't win next week's challenge, they're just going to get thrown in by the house because everyone thinks they're weak. So I feel like Aneesa and Kyle needed to do something this week to switch up the numbers and maybe get more people on their side, or to break up the Big Brother alliance, or to break up Cam and Leroy, because those four are holding all the power in the house. I think that they needed to either throw in Fessy to get rid of someone from Big Brother, or they needed to throw in Leroy to maybe get rid of the Cam Leroy alliance to try to switch up the numbers so that they aren't the house vote next week, because Aneesa and Kyle are on the bottom. They're going to get thrown in because everyone thinks they're weaker.
The thing is, I'm not sure that doing either of those things would have permanently changed anything, because it's like if you put in Fessy and Fessy loses, then his partner, who's his partner?
Nani.
Nani still votes with the Big Brother alliance, right? And then if you throw in Leroy, all that's going to do is piss off Cam. And I feel like it's one of those things where, like, they might have screwed themselves over even more by trying to make a big move. And, like, yeah, they might get thrown in next week, but it might have happened either way.
Yeah, I honestly think they're already too far, like, in the hole. Like, it's sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't now, because they didn't make a move this week. They're probably getting thrown in next week. But like you're saying, if you do make a move now, the numbers are probably already too stacked against them. Maybe, since Nani doesn't like Fessy anymore, wants to switch away from being his partner, then maybe Nani would not vote with like the Cam Leroy alliance. But like, since they're longtime friends, could happen. You piss off one of them, which isn't good for the numbers. But I don't know, like Cory is sort of floating in the game. He hasn't really like shown many allegiances, even if he's like friends with certain people. So like
That's
keeping
because
him
he hasn't had as many votes, just because as a rogue agent, you don't
yeah,
get to vote,
also, but it's like Aneesa and Kyle are just sort of screwed in the terms of like getting friends or getting numbers on their side, because like CT, even though him and Kyle were like close earlier in the season with Devin, like CT is not going to stand up for Kyle. No way. CT is going to go where the numbers go and like play that middle game. So maybe it's like something Kyle needed to do a few weeks ago, Aneesa needed to do a few weeks ago, when there was still time to get more numbers on your side, because I can just see it now. Like Aneesa and Kyle are going to get thrown into every elimination coming up. If there's like 2, 3, since there's 4 more episodes, it could be 3 more eliminations.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where Aneesa and Kyle didn't even know that they were going to be playing together. So of course they didn't know to like be strategizing of what if I get paired with Aneesa and we both are super weak. So
I guess it's more like as individuals, maybe they needed to like plan more to get more numbers on their side. Like Cam and Leroy and the Big Brother Alliance have solid numbers, and they've had these numbers since the start of the game. So maybe these stragglers have been screwed from the beginning, because the Big Brother and Cam and Leroy have had the house on lock since like day one. So maybe they could have thought earlier that they needed more numbers, but like CT doesn't really have any numbers and he's doing quite fine.
I mean, I think also whenever someone tried to do something about the Big Brother Alliance, mostly Devin, it just ended up not working out for them. So I think part of it is when there were enough non Big Brother people in the game to like actually do something about the Big Brother Alliance, everyone was still more focused on the individual game of like, well, I want to get my skull. Mm-hmm. So I feel like
no, yeah, that's where the problem lies, I guess, right? Because I think, would you rather be like Teresa and try to make a move in the middle of the season and then get sent home by trying to send Cam in, which is smart, she could have broke up Cam and Leroy if Cam lost to Ashley? Or would you rather be like someone like, I don't know, still in the game right now who is going to get sent home right before the finals because they don't have the numbers and everyone thinks they're weaker, or like they don't want to run the final with them kind of thing? It's like, I don't know. Would you want to get sent home earlier or stay longer to just get sent home before the final?
Yeah. So I guess that's all up to personal preference, but I do wish that they would make some effort in the challenge to like not just have it be dominated by alliances that happened pre-game. But I guess that's more of the challenges thing. So
just sucks. So
yeah.
the crater also sucks. For some reason, Alyssa, why was there so much slack? How did Cory just run so fast that this wasn't even like an endurance challenge, which I felt like it was supposed to be like the Devin versus West challenge we saw at the beginning, where the rope isn't long enough for one person to just make it to the buzzer. Was Darrell just so slow that there was enough slack for Cory to just run the entire thing? Like, this was just a sprinting challenge.
Yeah, I feel like with the Devon versus West thing, they must have had a shorter rope or something. Because they both were like fighting every time that they did it. Because, like, I think that Darrell is slower than Cory, but I don't think he's that much slower.
Yeah, especially to do it like to lose twice by just running, not even having to like dig in the sand or get caught and pulled back. It was just
Yeah.
so. Why is it a sprint challenge? That's
It was
like, what is
boring.
that?
Yeah. So it was over pretty quickly because of that. It was just like, I think the whole challenge took like 5 minutes on our TV screen. It might have been longer in real life, but I doubt it. So it felt very anticlimactic because it was like this big thing where like, oh, Darrell's the however many time champ, 4-time champ, never lost a challenge or a final he's been in, and then it's just like he goes home so quick just because he can't run.
Seriously, I was like, okay, Darrell versus Cory. It's sort of like a David versus Goliath-esque kind of challenge. Let's see it. You know, Cory in previous seasons has always been the person that's like, let's get out the big dogs. And so Cory winning this sort of comes full circle because the last time Darrell was back on the challenge was in season 30. So in Dirty 30, where Cory purged Darrell and like eliminated Darrell on day one of that season. And so that was the last time we saw Darrell when Cory purged him. And then now Cory beats him in an elimination. So it's like, good on Cory. It's really full circle. And so, and like, wow. It sucks to see Darrell go, though.
Yeah. And then my favorite part of the episode comes when it comes time to switch partners. So Cory chooses Cam, which, like, okay, whatever. But then CT is left partnerless. And you know who he asks to be his partner? Who, Rachel?
Big T!
Yes. So my favorite challenge friendship is Reunited. CT gives this whole speech about how since Big T helped him get his skull, he wants to help her get hers. They reunite. Big T says that she might forgive him, and everything is well in the world again. I feel like CT and Cam's like challenge partnership kind of proved that like being the two strongest players might not necessarily make you the strongest team. Because I feel like CT and Big T were a better team than CT and Cam, even though CT and Cam like did okay in the challenges and everything. It was just they butted heads too much, and that like was talked about in the challenge this week. So I feel like they'll both be more successful apart.
Mm-hmm. It's like what we said last week in last week's podcast. If you have two leaders, it doesn't work. So Cam and CT are the leaders. But if you have like a leader and a follower, like Cam and Kyle calls himself a follower, then it works. So, you can't have those two type A personalities together because both want to be the alpha, which is what we saw in the CT and Cam partnership in the puzzle this challenge. And you were so excited that like CT picked Big T again. I was like, imagine if CT picked Amber B as a partner because he could only pick between Big T and Amber. And then Big T was left rogue for what might be the last women's elimination next week because then all 5 gold skulls for the women are taken and there's no more women left without gold skulls. That would just be such a like poop show if CT did that to Big T and she was left rogue and without a chance to even get a skull. I was like, imagine how much fighting would be in the house. But I was like, CT sort of has to pick Big T. Like, if he didn't, the whole scenario that I just said would be so messy for him.
Yeah, but I think he did it in a good way because he was very heartfelt about his return to Big T. He wasn't like, oh, I have to go back to you. So I'm very excited to see them hopefully mend their relationship because I loved them as partners. So, yeah.
And yeah, honestly, I feel like Amber B is in the best spot in the house right now because she's going into next week Rogue, and next week could be the last women's elimination before the final. But that's only episode 15 and there's 18 episodes, so something's got to fill those last few episodes. But going into the last could be women's elimination, Rogue and safe, like Amber B is sitting in a good spot, especially because she was just voted in with Darrell. What's to say that the Big Brother people won't turn on her and throw her in again next week? But now she's safe, so good on her for being Rogue. I guess losing Darrell for how much she was crying is actually a good thing.
Yeah. I personally am hoping that next week will bring some drama. This week, I feel like they tried to make it dramatic, but it didn't really end up being that dramatic because the people that they wanted to win or wanted to lose didn't lose. And it doesn't quite have the same sting as in Survivor because I feel like in Survivor, when the player you want to vote out gets the immunity, then like it gets so much more complicated because of all the social politics involved. But I feel like they kind of just moved on to the next player in the challenge just because they did. So,
Yeah.
especially because voting someone into the crater does not guarantee that they go home, which I think is an interesting part of the challenge.
Yeah, they could have come back with a vengeance to wreak havoc on the house.
Yeah. So I'm excited about next week. I hope you're excited about next week. We hope you guys are excited about next week. Let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments down below. Are you as happy as I am that Big T and CT are back together, or is this something that only I care about? We love to hear from you guys, and we'll see you guys next week